please, if I may. This is the Village of Ortonville regular council meeting of September the 25th, 2023, about 7:02. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask Tony to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Takes us to a roll call.
Rosemary.
I am here.
Nivell. Here. Brooks. Here. George.
Here.
Green. Here. Hayden.
Here.
Brandeis.
Here. Alrighty, everybody's present and accounted for. Approval of agenda. Before I go further, I'd like to make a suggestion that we add item F. And just prior to taking my seat,
I'll be Pat today.
Pat, yeah, you can be Pat. Well, see, you answered Pat.
You should think how many times, Ken, what I've said.
Funny thing is, you answered Pat in the roll call, so it was only like 10 seconds sooner. So Pat passed out two documents that were the minutes from the Historical Society. One is of August the 8th, 2023. The other is July 11th. And he's asking that these be placed in with our acceptance items, and I see no reason why we shouldn't accept them.
Okay.
Therefore, we'll...
I didn't get it July. Do you have extra July?
They're both here. Oh,
Thank
maybe.
you. Nope, I didn't. All right,
Got it.
awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
So these are now going to be
Thanks.
on our acceptance items. And is there a motion on the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of F under acceptance items.
Okay, further discussion on the agenda? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the agenda is now set for us. That's a good start for us. Next is introductions. I think this is Melanie's.
Well,
Item?
okay. Is Destiny Christensen here? Okay, that's good enough. So we have a few new businesses that are coming to town, and this is one of them, and I happened across it actually talking with your wife on Facebook. So I just thought you could introduce yourself and tell us what you're about.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Christensen. I'm the owner of Michigan Youth Basketball. We just bought the place at the end of town over here.
Used to be the school, college, Flo's Cleaners was in that building. Yeah.
We run the largest junior NBA leagues in the whole country, so we have a resort on the state right now. We're looking to actually expand outside the state of Michigan. We have about 12 locations, about 8,000 kids playing each year, so all over the place. We were doing everything out of our house when we needed an office, so we purchased the place here in Ortonville. I'm actually from Goodrich. My wife graduated from Brandon. I coached JV basketball at Brandon for 5 years. Then I'm the varsity coach over at Linden, so they're all wondering why I moved back over here. So,
Good choice.
looking to fill. Obviously, we're only using about a quarter of the building. We thought Flo was going to stay, but she decided to leave, so we're looking for her spot, the spot behind it, and then Linda's closet decided to stay when we took over, so they're going to still be there, the nonprofit that's in the building. So we're only using about half the school side. So we had the whole front. Looking for like 2 retail spots right on the street, so we're going to go in there and fix it up once we get everything started this past weekend, so it's been crazy.
So you're looking to lease those out then?
Yeah, we have signs. I've gotten contacted by a few people, but no one's really committed to anything yet. So I don't know, she told me to bring like the numbers for the spots. So like the 2 front spots, like Flo's old spot was about 750 square feet, and we're looking at about $1.10 a square foot. So if you know guys know anyone that's looking to lease, we're doing $1.10 on the strip, and then $1 a square foot for anything behind it, which is more smaller stuff. I think they used to have like a medical billing office used to be in there.
Yeah.
There used to be like a photographer who made one room like a green screen of her. So anyone starting out, we have a smaller one that's about 700 square feet, and then there's like a little. It used to be the nursery for a church that was in there. It's about 450 square feet. Those are off the front. The 2 on the street they're around 1,000 square foot, and then Flo's old place was 750. So.
Thanks. It sounds like it all came together quickly.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Those kinds of things usually are the ones that work out, because if you overthink them, then they just don't seem to, they don't
We
seem
were
to
actually
go as
looking at some cheaper spots over in like Flint area, and then, the air conditioning unit got stolen out once, we're like, we're gonna.
Oh, no.
We were actually looking at the place next door here, two down.
Mhm.
But Tom Schaefer was our realtor. It's like, I'm listening to one right the other time. You should check that out. So, we decided to go with that and move forward with this.
No, sounds like a win-win. Thanks for coming in. Does anybody have any questions?
I know our DDA has some ideas about, potential tenants, so I'll give you my info. Happy to help,
Yeah.
some like co-working spaces and things like that.
Flo Leland was kind of surprised when we found out on Wednesday when we were closing on Friday. So,
Yeah.
we kind of got shocked with that. So, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, welcome.
Yeah,
Want me to just shoot you an email or something?
sounds good, yeah, sweet, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
then
thanks.
there was one other, I don't know if you wanna tell him if he doesn't have to sit through the whole
No, if you, whatever, I just.
You don't have to sit through this whole meeting, just so you know.
Oh,
That's
gosh,
why we
no,
put
as a
you at the
matter of
front.
fact-
That's
Yeah.
why we put you at
We
the
do these
beginning
at the
to
front.
get you out, yeah.
It goes all downhill from here.
And this was a highlight.
I'll email you, so if you guys
It-
ever need anything, we'll be at the other street. So.
At least we can say you were the highlight so far. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Edward Jones, as you guys know, moving, and he's going to come to our next meeting, and Mike Ratliff, and talk to us about Edward Jones. And then just as a FYI, Mill Street Blooms and Mercantile just moved in, and they're a florist, and I'm not sure what else. I just found out about this, and so I'm gonna see if she can come next meeting and tell us about her business.
What's it called? Something
It's
mercantile?
Mill Street Blooms and Mercantile.
Bloom.
Yeah.
Okay, that does for introductions. Next, we have council minutes, and in our packets, we have a regular meeting of August 23rd. We also have that joint meeting that we held with the DDA and the Planning Commission, and that was held on September the 11th. Both those minutes are in our packet, and we can approve them or discuss them.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 23rd, 2023, and the joint meeting minutes of September 11th, 2023.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported. Does anybody have a question on those meeting minutes? I certainly have none. Therefore, we can vote, and all those in favor of accepting them, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those minutes now become the official record of the Village of Ortonville. On to number 7. This is acceptance items. These are things that we all get in our packet and we get to review, and we can right now discuss any of them if you want, but we don't need to have a motion or anything other than just, there's a list of regular acceptance items: Planning Commission, DDA, attorney invoice, finance report, revenue and expenditure report, and then now this newly added number F, which is the Historical Society minutes from 2 separate meetings.
I just have a question on the, attorney invoice. I thought we were done with these jars holding. Did they appeal and now we still need to go?
Short answer is yes. We can talk in more detail. There's some lingering
Well, they're not
expenses
going away,
there.
they're just losing their lawsuits left and right. But they have, I believe it's 1 year from the time that we granted them their application, so they are still somehow viably in the picture, yet
I
they,
just thought they'd lost their lawsuit, now I thought.
no, well, they lost, their lawsuit was for a particular stance that they were taking
Okay.
against us, and they lost that. So in a way, that does take some of the wind out of their sails when it comes to, I guess, filing lawsuits in the future against us, because their track record isn't very well. But nonetheless, they aren't a problem that has gone away yet.
Okay,
So we will be dealing with them for at least through November, if not past that.
okay,
And it wouldn't surprise me if, people if they in general, kind of do things last minute or in a flurry at the end. So I would expect October and November to be a busy month when it comes to these people either reapplying or attempting to reapply, or at least even purchasing the property they agreed to purchase and following with some of the commitments they've already made. So none of those things have happened yet. Hence, we are gonna have some occasional legal things that we're gonna have to just take care of. Is that about an accurate?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a thorn in our side, or at least in mine anyway. That's the items that we accept, and if there's no other questions, we will go on to the approval of disbursements, which is in our packet as well.
Do we vote to approve?
No, we don't vote,
Oh,
we
we
just
don't vote,
accept them. I mean, we'll answer questions, but we don't have to vote yea or nay.
I have another question here.
Oh, okay.
I just was trying to look at our disbursements and match them up to our budget to see, exactly which, I don't know, I just wanted to kind of understand it. So I was going through it and I noticed that our budget is through the month of August, and our disbursements run from the 15th to the 15th. And I just thought that was odd because, you know, at the end of the report, it tells us total expenditures for the month of August, and at the end of the disbursements, it tells us total disbursements for half of August and half of September. And I just thought that was an odd way to do it. It made it very difficult for me to just go, oh, yep, this is where they are, I see them, all is well.
If it makes any difference, or I don't have the answer to your question, but what I do know is I get that, that same long report that you're referring to. I find it to be about useless. But what means the most to me is the disbursements, when the money comes in, what it's all going out for. I think part of the reason is, and I could be way off on this, is the bills come in and maybe they aren't paid instantly, but when they do get paid later, they might be, we might have received them in August and paid them in September.
That's fine, but I don't know why we don't just, if we're gonna report on our big report, what we spent for August, why don't we match up? I mean, that just means that we're gonna be a little farther behind.
I think
We
it's
aren't gonna
because-
get today what we spent from up to 9/15, which is a little more current, but I would rather see them match the other report. It just seems silly to me that they don't
I'll
match.
throw something else out that I have no idea is, it might be some part of the audit or accounting procedure that we're required to follow that in a certain,
It's the fiscal year, I think.
well, that for sure, but,
Well, that's the budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll fire a question at him, and that'll
Yeah.
actually be, if he's able to help us, because this is the auditor here today, he may know the answer
I
to
mean,
that more.
my thought is the bank statement ends on the 15th, but that doesn't,
Yeah, there's a couple factors and the
but
timing
that
of
doesn't
check
make,
runs and
again, I'm
things.
just I just feel it would make more sense.
Do you have
to
anything
them
to
match.
input, village manager, of why it's like that?
Mostly timing and the logistical stuff. So like Linda said, when checks are run, showing from, so checks are paid on the 15th in the end of the month. So showing the check run on the 15th gives you up-to-date information. It would be helpful, the last packet's disbursements would have the check run of 8/15. So it's like across both packets. If you had all those checks and the 8/31 checks, I'm pretty sure those would add up for the month of August. But I know
I
it's
will
a-
admit to you, I tried hard to make it all fit in and I could not, so,
Yeah.
I don't think every disbursement is a check, so it was hard to just figure it out, but
Right.
it just was confusing to me, and I would rather just August, September. Don't give
Like
us
the bat, too.
disbursements halfway in the middle.
I can understand that too, but on the other hand, if we wait to approve to the end of September disbursements that were from beginning of August, I don't know if that could run into any issues, like if
Okay.
there's things that are like not 30 days or things like that, that
Right.
we have to pay under.
Would
some-
be missing.
I think there's a reason we just don't know it.
Yeah, so maybe we just need to have Ryan follow up with Beth and get some clarification for us.
Well, and
Can
your
do.
thing, these are all being done, it's not like we're gonna hold anything up, they don't wait for our approval.
Well, we have to approve at this point. I don't know what
Yeah.
happens if we don't approve it.
That's true.
Haven't they all been written?
Question.
Yes.
They have.
Pretty much.
That question, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they are, they're gone. We're approving what we've already paid, right?
Yeah.
And they're either within the limits of what we can approve or they're regularly budgeted. There's a couple different things in our policy for how we pay stuff.
Again, I was just trying to match them to the budget, and it was difficult.
Okay, then again, that's the acceptance items, and the next item on the agenda is the approval of disbursements, which is its own single page of 28 or so items of disbursements that we made.
Make a motion to approve our disbursements in the amount of $35,948.13.
Support?
Okay, any questions about these 20 to 30 some items? Okay, hearing none, I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Next is comments on, public comments from people in the audience. I'm gonna skip right over you, cause I know you got your own, you got your own dedicated segment coming up shortly, so the chairs though around you seem to be vacant, so I think I can safely say nobody's here to speak with the council, so, we'll move past, public comments. Items requiring council approval. We have two event permits in our packets. One's for the homecoming parade, which I think has probably been going on since for 70 years or so. The other is Halloween. That's been going on since, the witchcraft Salem days, I suppose. So none of these events are new to the village, or, they're long historical events in that manner. Everybody will see that these are these older forms that we're using because we just haven't proved the other ones yet. But these are the two events. The only question I have for you, Ryan, is for Halloween, we have a little pass out here of the cider donuts, and that's an annual event. What is the trick-or-treat time? Who sets it, and how do we know about it?
We set it, so this is the flyer from last year that had 6:30 to 7:30. I know somewhere along the COVID timeline, we may have switched one year to 6 to 7, and somehow the village is still standing, but it was close for a bit.
Well, then I'm even more confused, because the flyer says 6:30 to 7:30. And if that's trick-or-treating time, I thought the event at the DPW followed trick-or-treating
Correct.
and went from, say, 7:30 to 8:30
So
or
we
something
run
of
out of
that
donuts,
nature.
yeah.
Is that still the policy?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just didn't know that the trick-or-treating, that the flyer designated trick-or-treating time. Like when the
does,
fire
yeah.
whistle blows off and all the kids
Right.
shoot like cannons down the street.
They come right to your house.
Okay. I got the time down. Good.
Hopefully a few to mine.
Yeah.
I have a-
Anyway, they both do require approval, so I'm gonna take them one at a time, and we'll jump to that one if it was a Halloween one. Let's start off with the special event of the homecoming parade. It's gonna be held on September the 29th in our village, and the high school band typically kicks it off, or leads the parade. Followed by some floats and some nominees for kings and queens and princes and other royalty.
I make a motion to approve the event of homecoming parade.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported, and,
I do have a little
September
discussion
29th.
though.
yeah, oh yeah.
I'm just curious as to why the sign off by Glover and the CERT team are stated June.
Because one followed the other, it looks like.
Yep, so the Glover's not here, so I can say, when Amber walked the Halloween permit over, he said, "You guys got homecoming, right?" And we said, "Haven't seen it." And he still, "I've had it since June."
Oh,
So there was a little delay in us getting
Okay.
it. But we figured it's pretty routine, it's not controversial, it should be,
That they were walking over the
And,
yeah.
and it hasn't already occurred yet, so,
Right.
We're-
if this were November, we'd have more to talk
Slide in.
about.
yeah. I was just kinda curious.
Well, I was gonna comment on that. Because of that delay, it's gonna be very tough to know if we will have enough CERT team members to support it, because we
Well,
didn't
that's,
have this on our radar.
Well, yeah, but
Somebody
we
else's
have this
problem,
every year.
not
CERT
our
should be well
problem.
aware of the homecoming and the Halloween especially.
But we can only schedule things once we have the chief's approval, and this is where we see chief's approval, so unfortunately, yeah, it slipped through the cracks. I'm hoping our updated process will help to keep this from happening for future events once we have that.
I don't think it was done intentionally.
No, I don't think it was
Okay,
either.
is there any more discussion on the motion and support that was made on the homecoming parade?
Nope.
It says here we can do both at once, but you want to do them individually?
Yeah, I wanna do them individually.
Okay.
I'm gonna also just do them roll call just for grins.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes, and the reason for that is because it's been just for clarity, and it's been a sticking point in the past, and if we stick with the same procedure, I don't see where you can go wrong. Okay, next is item B, that's the Halloween one that I mentioned. Motion, we can talk about that one.
I make a motion to approve the event permit for Halloween.
Support.
Okay, moving to supported discussion, I already asked my question about the times, and I got clarification from the village manager as to how and why those get set in that fashion. If it were changed sometime earlier because of COVID, that might be, that issue's long since sailed, so back to this 6:30 to 7:30 is probably the most consistent one that the village has become familiar with. The only other time I ever notice an issue is when daylight savings happens, either just before or just after, and it ends up being that the entire event takes place in daylight hours. And I think people like it that it's now a little bit of both, because it's not quite dark when trick-or-treating starts, but by the
Years
time-
ago, it used to be 6 to 7, and then they shifted it to 6:30, 7:30 for exactly that
Yeah,
reason.
so you kinda get a little bit of both. You can get the Halloween feel of nighttime, but yet, when you're starting off early, especially if you have young kids, you're only gonna go 15, 20 minutes and go home, you know, you get daylight for that. So, I think that, as they say, splits the baby, and, makes sense.
I also wanna say, living on Church Street, that I'm, pleased that we actually do shut the streets down. It's just a lot of kids, a lot of people. My kids who've moved out of the area say it is one of their favorite events in Ortonville. And it is something unique to our village, so they didn't used to, there was a time where the streets were not closed, and that was always a little scary, cause there's just the volume of kids, so I appreciate that we do that.
And to speak to the volume, if approved, we'll continue to promote it the same way we've done before, so it'll be Amber's first Halloween. So we'll make sure we'll talk about it tomorrow of the village office. We'll collect candy, we'll put that in the paper, we'll let people know. So people from outlying areas can bring in candy, and we'll disperse it to the places within the street closure to make sure, and nearby, to make sure you guys have lots of candy.
Okay, appreciate that. And if there aren't any other questions, I can have a roll call vote.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
All right then, Larry.
Yes. I don't have a scarier way to say yes. Items from trustees, I'm gonna start over there with you, Kay, if you have any items you want to discuss with the board.
I do have a couple. Speaking of the Halloween, Melanie and I have agreed again this year to go to the DPW and hand out the donuts and cider, or whatever it is we're getting this year. The 175th turned out wonderful, the September Fest. Everything seemed to go off without too much of a hitch, which was very nice. Ryan and I had talked, and it's not on the agenda tonight, but we would hopefully like council's approval to send a thank you letter to all those that participated in the 175th. Time and effort, because a lot of people spent a lot of time.
Okay, well, Kay, that sounds like something that should be done timely. Therefore, because it isn't on the agenda, we can just nudge and encourage our office staff to take that matter into their own hands and do it knowing that they're fully supported by this council.
I was hopeful we could do that. We also met, the personnel committee, well, I don't know. Melanie and I and Ryan met about the special events that's in your packet tonight. And I think the end product turned out really good. We borrowed from here and there, we edited our own, we checked with all kinds of different people, and I think it's a good document. That said, you know, there may be down the line something we see we need to change, but hopefully that would be approved tonight and it could start on. And the only other thing I had, and it is for Tony really, I'm wondering about the beautification awards, where
Haven't done
those are, what's happening.
Haven't done,
I'm sorry?
haven't done them.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, Melanie?
175th, yes, very nice, and I was gonna bring up, thank yous. We had Bob Hoffman, our commissioner, attend, and he spent a lot of time here. So I was going to ask about that, so thank you, because yes, I just think that should be something that we do as a village.
And he
is-
enjoyed eating the pies.
And for next year, if someone could put him on the pie eating, he would
Judging,
love
yeah.
the judging. There was some confusion though, and I just wanna make sure, I had sent in a list of, some people to be invited to the event, and I had sent it to Ryan and Faye, and there were so many committees, and I don't know who was doing what, or who was supposed to do what, but those invites, really didn't go out, and one of them was for Bob, and he called me literally, and Kay, I texted you the night before, I think it was 11 o'clock the night before, and I was asking you, like, what time is this, and where's the list of events, and where should he be? Because I wasn't on the committee, so I just had
Probably
assumed.
Put something in the packet, but I'm.
Yes, invitations went out in April or May, but they included both the June 7th event and the September Fest event. So there may have been confusion on which was which. I know people like Sheriff Bouchard said I can come to September but not June, and did. So that they received
Right.
it in a very
Well,
timely manner.
he was presenting that proclamation, so he just kind of needed to know where to be and at what time. So, and like I said, I wasn't part of it, so I don't know. Heritage Garden lighting, if we could get that working, the lighting is not working. Holly Open House, I don't know if anybody went, the township has taken over Dawson Tire, I believe it was called. And they are actually looking at maybe doing the village and township together there, but I did stop by there and check that out, and I think that's gonna be a great municipal complex in the future. And then you may have seen that Holly and some other areas are doing for transit, WODA is now covering their areas. There were articles in the paper. We are still with SMART. I checked with the township, and we're with SMART for a year. And I'm not sure if anything has changed as far as runs or who is allowed to use that transit, because again, that's our money that's going to the county for transit. And then the only other thing, and I know Ryan will talk about it later, but the wayfinding, the signs, it's 1 year ago this month was when we approved the signage and allocated money towards signs. So I'm hoping to hear more about that a little further down the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, great. Linda?
I think I've said enough tonight, nothing further.
If clock time counted for anything, that you're the winner so far. Tony?
No, I have nothing.
Can I ask though, are we going to have beautification? Because I wanted to submit somebody, but is that done? Is it just done? Just so we know.
I mean, when I drive around, I see the same stuff at the same houses.
Mm-hmm.
There's really
Okay,
nothing.
so we're kind of done. Okay.
Okay.
What about for Christmas and they do too?
Well, that is different. That's different because but the stuff during the summer, nobody's doing nothing. I mean, it's nothing that.
Because I mean, when I was doing it, I couldn't hardly decide on so many. They all were looking so good.
Like what, a year, 2 years ago?
Year.
A year ago?
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Steve, is there anything you have?
Steve?
Steve.
Steve?
I always tell
I
people,
love it.
Ron, I always tell people, it's Pat, like Pat, you're him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Pat for the first
I,
year called me Todd.
Yeah, I have, just a few things, maybe 5 minutes, I don't know. But I would, Brian, you know on this, and everybody involved, that on the 175th, we could do a lot on that. I was just so impressed and proud of what everybody did for the village and the kind of turnout that we had. Just very, very proud, and bringing a lot of people up to Ortonville. So very proud of what we were able to accomplish on 175th. Ryan, I know you, and did put in a lot of work, and I saw somewhere on the top of that sheet, one Miss Judy Miracle from the Historical Society, and Judy put a lot of time and effort into, and it just goes on and on, you know, on that. So, and also very excited for Fred Wabrant to get the kind of award that he did. He went out in style, that's for sure.
Yes, he did.
Just so happy for him, you know, just a great guy. A lot of good things. When I look back and on what he was able to accomplish on limited funds, on the Brandon Park, and you know there was a lot of freebies on that from citizens helping out too on some things. So Fred got a rousing send-off, and deservedly so. I've been in this village for a lot of years, and he's done a lot of good. So very happy to see that. And let's see. Oh, and I mentioned it off and on for a somewhat regular basis. Very, very happy and proud of the fact that we were able to get the mill fixed and painted, and the old schoolhouse. So I thought for the longest time this is not going to happen. And then when the thing initially on that was, we'll send out for quotes, and I'm seeing to paint the mill, 90,000, things like that, getting up around 100 there were. And to see what we were able to do, again, that's a tribute to Bob Huxwell and his crew. Help me, Ryan, who's our guy, who's our painter, Scott?
Scott Zimmer from Primetime Services, lives on Church Street.
Yeah, just incredible what he, especially with his crew from a painting standpoint. I didn't think that had snowball's chance in hell for a while. So very pleased that happened, and that about it. They can just go on and on, you know. But yeah, just to do it.
Okay, well, thanks, Pat. That takes care of the items from trustees that they wanted to pass along to the rest of us to keep us all informed. I did, you know what, I thought I started on you. Well, let's go to Larry.
And we gotta have TDA too.
I haven't had a chance to talk yet much. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna emulate everybody else about 175th September Fest was a really good event. I will say it's not perfect. There were a few things I think that things were a little sparse on Sunday. John Hogg did a really good job stepping in, trying to take over from Fred for the coordination of the event. Our CERT team was there for 3 days. We were there Friday evening as well as Saturday and Sunday. We will be generating an after-action report where we will take note of things that we noted, where we thought things were good, things that we thought might need some improvement. One which always comes up is we don't have enough signs, but in any event, great event. It was really nice. I took a break to go down and see the dedication ceremony at the time capsule, and that was really nice seeing all those public officials there coming and visiting our community. I thought that was a really nice dedication there. And as I said, we'll put together an after-action report and get that to all the involved people. So the village council will get a copy of that, as well as the event coordinators, and that should hopefully help us make an even better event next year. I know John wants to work on some improvements too. Last time I mentioned about people need to kind of watch and keep an eye on burn dates and stuff like that. This time I'm going to bring up a little different topic I'd like to raise some citizen awareness about, and that is about dogs on leashes or confined in their yards, because there are a number of places in our community where there are dogs that are not on a leash, not confined within a yard, and just sitting loose out in their yard. And this could potentially pose a hazard. We have a guest here now who in the past was bitten more than once by dogs when he's out running. And I do just want to remind the community that we do have ordinances about your pets, and if they're not in your control on a leash, then they need to be fenced in on the yard. They just can't be outside loose. So this is just to remind the community that we do have ordinances about that, and it's to protect the people and protect other people with their dogs who are out trying to take their dogs for a walk too, because we've had issues with that when dogs aren't confined. And that's it for me.
Okay, great. Those were all noted.
Can I say one more thing, Ken?
You may.
I forgot. We're doing the 175th wrap-up meeting tomorrow morning,
Mhm.
so I just want to throw that out there.
Well, I'm sure, I hope you will pass along what this board's had to say about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, to a person, everybody's pleased.
Thank you.
And if I may, Amber, just make sure in the minutes, I think somebody brought it up, but on Cause's effort on a time capsule. Yeah. The time
Oz,
capsule.
K-O-Z is his name.
The time capsule and the man who spearheaded that.
So you want me to say Kaz did good on this?
Oh, I think that was huge. Yeah, I just wanna make sure it
Phenomenal
gets in the
job.
minutes,
Yeah, it can be noted separately. And I know Ryan will give you proper spellings and things like that, but I know I couldn't help you with this.
Kaz is Polish, just to,
Yeah, that's short for a very long name that ends in S-K-I.
yep.
So, good enough on items from trustees, unfinished business. We've already made reference to it once in this meeting, but it's the special event packet that we all received now. And based on Ryan's, write-up on it and Kay and Melanie's, comments on it, I believe it's ready for approval.
I make a motion to approve the special event packet as presented.
Support.
Okay, now we can move to the discussion phase of this particular motion, and this is a very, very in-depth, complex report. As you can see, the ones that we had before this were more from a bubble gum,
Or what?
more from a package of bubble gum or
Oh,
something than what you'd see, from a municipal agency.
Many communities across Michigan have a packet very similar to this one.
I have a question about the 60 days. I noticed that both of the permits we approved today were not submitted 60 days in advance. And I feel like many of them are not, so I just was
Actually,
kinda.
the one was, it just didn't get
They never made it.
back to us within the 60.
I just question that, is that a reasonable time, and,
I don't think so.
it just seems like a long way out. I don't wondered if 30 days is enough.
I agree with you, and I wish it maybe would have said, may not be considered, meaning
Yeah.
we discourage it, but it isn't a hard,
Yeah.
fast no. But it could be very well a likely thing that could disqualify you. So
We can change that.
may is
to
always a better word in my opinion, because it
Instead of
allows
will.
us a little extra
Yeah.
wiggle room and discretion. But that's just, it's not a change
Yeah,
I'm
that
gonna.
would be fine. I mean, I agree 60 would be nice, but I just feel like that to be hard and fast. If we change that to May.
That's an easy
So you
fix.
like the
We
may
can
not-
change that
Yeah,
and
that's
put that
fine.
as
Well,
a change in
Then what
here
I'd like to do is
on a
whoever made the
scale.
original motion,
We may have more, though, changes.
well, then here's what I'm gonna say, cause I don't,
I'll start collecting the suggestions, and when we're done discussing, I'll amend my motion to include what we feel should be added in there. How's
okay,
that
well, that's why this is gonna go, you know, it's kind of, is this thing ready for prime time, or is this not? And
we
if
thought
it
it
is, I
It-
think
it
changing it to a
is.
may
We
isn't,
can-
doesn't really, you know, isn't, well, okay, I don't like paragraph 7, or I don't, you know, these are the types of things that I don't even wanna venture down that roadway, we just table it, bring it back when it's a completed document. And we have Ryan make those corrections, and, or we just hold it to a vote, and it doesn't have to be unanimous. If 3 people don't like it and 4 do, the thing's gonna, you know, the thing's gonna
May is
swim on its
better.
own.
May is better. I can agree
Yeah.
with that.
May is, I don't
We have
see a
consensus, May
problem
is
with
better?
doing May. There was some things in here that, I got to Ryan that he has to change anyways, that
For a few
have
typos.
nothing to do.
We had a couple of as well.
With
Yes,
content.
with content.
Okay.
It's the, just way it reads, or type.
How's the way it reads, not the content?
Because it was redundant, there were two sentences that kind of said the
Oh.
same thing.
Okay.
So it's just taking out one of those.
Okay.
And then adding, and I can tell you exactly, I mean, they're very little.
If-
Adding the
no,
word
if you're calling them-
signage to page 10, and I already, sent him the, cause he had Kay and I look at it, we submitted it, but these were already done for the packet.
Okay.
So, so we have a couple little things that are gonna be done anyways, I think May is a good idea.
Yep. Does everybody agree with that?
On the
May
front, to
versus
say
must.
may not be considered
Right.
instead of will not.
Typos we can always change, if we catch
Yeah,
one
right,
after the
that's-
fact, it's
Right,
a typo.
Yeah.
But when it changes meaning like may instead of will, that,
That's a little different.
yeah, but because if May is the only thing we got going, I say we continue on and
Yeah,
approve this.
Absolutely.
I just have one other question, and this is just, cause I don't know who does what around here. It kept saying, let's see, about the review. The village will review, I'm just wondering, do we have a person that will be reviewing these, or, because I see them now and they're like approved by the police chief and then we approve them. So I'm kind of like, it made it sound like we were gonna approve them first, so I just was kinda confused
we're gonna
there.
approve
We're the last people to get it.
We're the
I
only
know,
ones
and
that
that's why
approve
when
it.
it
But we
said,
should be the last people,
Yes,
because
we should.
and this should all go through the meat grinder
Yes.
way before it ever makes it to
Yes.
us.
that's what I thought, and
And
it
that's
kept
the way it
saying,
is.
it kept saying in here that the village will review.
Well,
and
that's
village
the
will
guy
review.
over here in the
Well,
plaid
they're
shirt.
gonna
Includes the staff.
review the
Right.
paperwork
So-
and make sure that they've attached
Filled it out
everything that
correctly
needs
and
to be
page
done, yeah.
10, page 10 has the routing form that'll
Yep.
show who's gonna look at it, and if there's others, there's room. So it's
So
flexible.
it's basically, they're gonna come into the village, the staff, and you will,
We'll route it accordingly.
okay,
Yeah, and
okay,
if
that,
there's
that-
need
again,
for
I
a
just was
meeting
like,
or-
They'll bring it to us, or the
Because I thought,
village.
we're not gonna do that. We're the
Manager,
last.
village office. And that starts the process, then we look it over, make sure that they have included every single thing that needs to be, and then we send it on to the other parties.
Yeah, and I had the same thoughts, Linda, is what's gonna be the process for processing this? And I think that this is the form that goes out. I think separately, we may, if it's needed, have to create a separate, document to define the process that we follow when we receive these, or something like that. That will go into more details about who does what within the village in terms of handling of the paperwork.
Well, that's a part of a
Stuff like
job description on what you do when you
Yeah,
have
that's
special
an
events.
internal
That's-
document,
Okay.
that's not something that we would attach to the permit though, but that'd be if we need it, we can develop an internal process document that describes how we handle these when we receive them.
I'd be surprised if we see more than 3 a year. Just
We
in general.
know, we
We-
get,
we-
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we're gonna get a boatload of these, but they're gonna be
Yeah.
intergovernmental ones. So most of the things in this don't apply to the township holding an event or the DDA holding an event, even though they'll fill it out.
Yeah.
This whole existence of this document is for, private events. And that's what I don't think we see very many of, and we probably
Right.
will see
yeah,
fewer because of this. It's just gonna be part of it. Somebody might wanna, people can hold events all the time. It's just if you need to close something down or you need a permit for it, 30 people can meet in the park if they want. and
that
have
doesn't mean
pizza.
that there's not a process for those internal ones, they still have to go by fire department and.
No, 30 people
Police
having pizza in the park doesn't require they come to get approval from us or the police chief or anyone. So those are just gatherings. But it's when they want to close down a road or need further assistance other than just a picnic, then they should go through this process, and that's what this is gonna be. But the intergovernmental people that do it, like the two we've just had today,
yeah.
that's what we're gonna see mostly. And it's the private sector ones where we're gonna scrutinize them on a much, much higher level because we don't have any control or connection with these folks whatsoever.
My point is that both of the ones we approved today do have street closures, and they have to go by fire department and police
I
department.
get it, no, they're gonna fill it out, I didn't say they didn't have to fill it out.
It's a simplified process,
But
but it's.
it's not like they didn't fill out line 10, so they're gonna get denied. That's what
I
I'm
know,
getting at.
I know.
If they wanna rent the pavilion or the old town hall, there's separate procedures for that. This is just the special event packet.
Yeah. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, the redundancy, yeah.
Yeah. It was just small little.
Larry, was it you who made the original motion?
I made the original motion. I will amend my motion to change the 60-day will not be approved to may not be approved.
George, are you still gonna second?
Yes. No, I really, I mean, I am leaning here on Ken and the guy over there, the mayor, and other people. If you, to me, I got some issues with it, but I'm okay if you're okay.
And just a comment to Melanie, if you have things that are, anything that goes beyond typos, we can always take any changes that go beyond typos and then just say, hey, we want to amend it with these changes, and then that's very simple for us to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree that changes, this doesn't have to live forever in this form.
That's right.
Changes
It's
can
a
be
living
made.
So I like the way
They'll,
it is
they'll fix
now.
typos without us even knowing about it. But any other change
Correct.
would then become an agenda item, and it would be something that we all would
That's
discuss
why
and vote on.
I sent it via email to Ryan,
Yeah.
and it was all taken care of.
I thought it was good to go.
And one final comment, I do want to thank Melanie and Kate, I really appreciate it. I can see that you took the input I did and tried to incorporate that into the final document that we have.
No, it's
here.
good
I really
input,
appreciate
thank you.
We appreciated that.
It was real good input.
It's funny, because as I read this, I didn't even remember the things that we talked about on the last one, because they must have disappeared, because I didn't see them.
Well, and when you're working on a project like this, you look at it so many times that you have to get away from it for a little bit.
Yeah,
So you
appreciate
can
all your
see the
work.
differences too, so it really helps when all of you give us input.
Okay, before we vote, is there any additional questions or comments? And if there are none, please roll call.
Nyla,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes,
Green, George, Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Nope.
and Prisoners.
Yes. Okay, that gets us past the special event packet. On to some new business. We have an audit report. And this is Mr. Tyler Baker? Well, I saw your name in print when I read my packet, and I thought, I can at least get the name right.
Yeah.
This is Tyler Baker. He's from the firm that does the auditing for the village, and he is here to present us with an audit, I believe, or an audit report.
Correct.
Or at least, if nothing else, a few comments.
Yep. You were right, though, with presentations going downhill rapidly as I
Yeah.
stand before you tonight. Especially being one of the last things, I think, probably, on your agenda. So I won't keep you too long. But you should have a couple documents in front of you that we're going to go over this evening. You should have a bound report, and just inside that front
right
cover,
here,
yep,
okay.
is a couple of letters. We'll go over the letters at the end, but I just wanted to make note of those because those get lost quickly. Like you said, my name's Tyler Baker. I'm a senior manager at Maynard Costerison, and we will be going over the audit report for 6/30 of 23 for the village. First off, Beth isn't here, but I want to thank Beth, Ryan, and all of their team for all of their help. They were very attentive and available for us while we were on site, which is always greatly appreciated and makes for a smooth audit process, which I think is nice on both parties because we understand actual jobs and actual roles don't stop when we show up. So we appreciate that. If at any point you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me. I will be pointing us to a few pages throughout the document that I would like to talk about today, and more than willing to answer any questions about this or that have been previously discussed, as I'm sure they will pop up. First page I would like to turn to is page 1 of the bound report, a couple pages in. This is what's known as our independent auditor's report. So pages 1 through 3 are the only 3 pages that are ours as the independent auditor. The rest are that of the villages. Basically, all of our audit work comes down to these 3 pages, with the most pertinent paragraph being the second paragraph under the opinions. On page 1, where it states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted, or GAAP. It's basically a long-winded way of saying these financials are in accordance with GAAP, and then we, as an independent auditor, have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that us as auditors can have on a set of financial statements, which is consistent previous years with the village, but is always good to reiterate and is good news for the board in that stance as well. If I can have you flip forward to page 11. Page 11, which is on the left side of the pages, you can see there's a couple funds there. There's general fund, major street, local street. These are the major funds of the village, and this is the balance sheet or as a spot in time as of 6/30 of 2023. And I just want to point out a couple comparisons from year to year. So as of 6/30 of 23, total assets were $466,000 for 2023. Prior year were $391,000. That's mainly due to net income in the current year and just timing of cash flows, which we'll discuss here in the next page. Total liabilities in the current year were just over or approximately $121,000. Prior year were $138,000, so a decrease of $17,000, and that's mainly due to the recognition of unearned revenue in regards to the ARPA funding, recognizing some of that ARPA funding. If I can have you flip forward to page 13. Again, on the left side of the dual page, this is the income statement for these three funds, and this is on a modified accrual, so it doesn't include long-term debts or fixed assets on the balance sheet, so all of those activities would be included in this income statement. You'll notice the left column is the general fund. Towards the bottom 3 rows up is basically the net income or the excess of revenues over expenditures for the 3 funds, with the general fund increasing their fund balance $62,000 from $193,000 to $256,000 as of 6/30. Major street increasing also $23,000, and then local streets increasing $5,500 for a total village increase in fund balance of just under $91,000 to a fund balance of $344,000. And we're going to go over the budget to actual for those 3 funds here shortly also. Page 27. No real changes in any of the footnotes, so we don't need to go over those too much, but I do want to flip to the pages I think you guys probably care the most about, which will be the budget to actuals in regards to the general fund, or major street and local street. Page 27, as noted in the header, is the general fund, and this is a budgetary comparison schedule. On the header, you'll see the original budget, final budget, actual expenditures and revenues for the year, and then any variances with the final budget from actual. Total revenues, which is that first subsection, had actual revenue of $598,000. As noted, final budget was $240 different than anticipated, which is obviously very tight budgeting. Total expenditures, which is 3/4 of the way down the page. Far right column, you can see a positive variance with the final budget of $77,001, with actual expenditures coming in just under $536,000, with budgeted total expenditures anticipated of approximately $613,000. So that variance being on the positive side, with net change anticipated of a final budget of a decrease of $215,000, actual increasing $62,000. Taking that fund balance from $193,000 in the general fund to $256,000 in the general fund. Excuse me. If I can have you flip forward. These are the next 2 special revenue funds, being the major street fund on the left and the local street fund on the right. Same idea. This is a budgetary comparison schedule. If I can draw your attention down to the bottom on that net change in fund balance anticipated for a final budget of the major street fund of a decrease of $29,000. Actual for major street was an increase of $23,000, taking the budget from the fund balance from just over $29,000 to $52,000 in the current year positively. Local street fund, the page on the right, page 29. Same idea, anticipated net change in fund balance of 0 for the final budget, actual increasing $55,000 to a fund balance of $36,000, approximately $500 for the local street fund. Any questions on the financial statements before I jump into the letters?
No, sir.
Perfect. We're gonna go over these two letters here quickly. One of which being, they're both single space, but it starts out saying we have audited the financial statements of the governmental entities. Talks about significant audit matters. This is what's known as our governance letter. So this is a required letter to the board or governance that notes a few items, some of which being estimates that are included within the financial statements, being useful lives of fixed assets, compensated absences, things like that, which are disclosed in here. It would also note if we had any difficulties encountered during the audit or if there were any uncorrected misstatements or any disagreements with management. There were none. This is a boilerplate letter, and I will let you read that as your leisure, which is exactly what the board would like, boilerplate letter for that one. We are required to still disclose it to you all. The second letter here is our management letter. This is where, and if we had any recommendations that came throughout the process, we would include these within here. The bound report is a financial statement audit. We're not required to test or provide an opinion on controls, but we are required to gain an understanding of them. So as we go through the process, if anything pops up, this is where, in this letter is where we would recommend those things. All of this, there's 3 items of note here, all being similar to previous years. Nothing's changed, one of which being segregation of duties. It's a small operation. It's a small business office. Throughout the process of it, nothing came to our attention to be disclosed to the board, but we wanted to make note of those segregation of duty issues purely due to the small office staff, and obviously the board's involvement in a lot of that does compensate for some of those things as well, which is good. Wanted to make note of that. And then a couple compliance and other findings was budgeted fund balance deficits. So whenever there is a budget approved that takes the fund balance to a negative anticipated, that's required to be a finding, which is not allowed per state law. Excuse me, and that's noted in there. The actual did not turn out to be that way, but the budget noted that, which was noted in this finding. And then the second being uniform chart of accounts, just a few tweaks in subsequent years into the new state chart of account requirements that we've been in talks with management on. Slight tweaks in that, and that finding will go away as well. So, any questions through all of that? I know it's not a small amount of information, but overall consistent with previous years. Smooth audit. Yes.
So, I know you said that you noted that the village did not appropriately update their chart of accounts.
Yep.
Important.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, and have we done it?
Yes, so they did it. The village, yes, the village did it. There's just a few tweaks that need to be which just need to be slightly tweaked to allocate to different departments is all. The village did do it. It was due 6/30 of 23 for all municipalities, and they did do it. There's just some small tweaks.
And have we taken care of the other 2 items also? The separation of duties and the deficits, is Beth aware of how she needs to record that for future, so it's not a deficit?
It's not a recording issue. The board approved a deficit budget, right? So it's if they don't approve a deficit budget, then it won't be a finding. That's purely what it is. In the actual, as we noted, all of them increased. So it's not that the funds actually went into a negative. It's just that anticipated they may have thought they would. Yep.
And then the other, a log of all mail payments is not kept. Is that good, bad? Does it matter? Doesn't matter?
So,
Yeah, under segregation
Yeah.
of duties.
required and recommended are different.
Right.
Right? Because everybody has slightly different processes. A lot of that comes with like receipt logs. People record it differently. Not
not
difficult.
required?
None of this is required. Nothing for internal controls is required as long as there's a process, right? We just provide
Okay.
our insight, some of it being easier than others when you only have a certain number of individuals involved in the process, right?
That's the
So,
problem, we have,
Yep.
well, we have 3 people, and
And yes, I think there, we could definitely sit down and specify and kind of figure out, maybe it's a job duties thing, maybe it's whatever, maybe there's slight tweaks in who does what, that we can, potentially remove that one, but I believe that's probably been there a while.
Okay.
Just how it is. It's not uncommon. Let's put it that way. It's not uncommon for small entities by any means.
Yeah, one question about that same
Yep.
topic. You do have mention in there that if they cannot be adequately separated, the village's management must provide a greater review and supervision of employee functions. Is there any recommendations on how we can achieve that aspect of it?
Is that the second page you were reading off of?
Yes.
About the
About the segregation.
Yep, I see it, yep. So a lot of times with these letters, we don't necessarily go into specifics because we're supposed to be independent, so we can't necessarily say you have to do it this way, right? So the letters are quite generic, and throughout the process, we provide potential course corrections, or here's an area in which you could then, here's someone that can initial, you guys were talking about review of, or approval of the board being the final approval for some of these permits, thank you. Same idea, right? Like throughout the process, there may not be a perfect segregation from a receipt of invoice to a payment of an invoice to bank recs being performed via 3 completely different people with no access to all of it. Some of that's not possible with a small, but there's board involvement, which adds that compensating control. So as we went through the process, we noted that it could be a matter of just timing, where it's not done right at the time, but it's done 15 days after, like you noted with the disbursements, right? There's certain things you can do. We didn't come across any disbursements that were of issues or anything like that. Just a matter of making the board aware that it's a small entity. There could be items, and throughout the process, we provide our recommendations as we go.
Thank you for all your help along the way, Tyler. We are not shy about asking you questions throughout the year. When Beth and I aren't sure about something, Tyler is who we ask.
That's what we're here for. We don't charge for phone
Thank
calls,
you.
so
We take advantage. So thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Tyler, thank you again from the whole board, and this is a governmental requirement, and we are meeting our obligation as the controller of taxpayer money. Okay? Thanks for your guys' Okay. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
You're not doing anything on Halloween, there's cider and donuts gonna be up.
Do we just accept it, or do
we
we vote
need a
on it?
motion?
Well, he's done with his presentation, but we need to vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
But I was gonna let him do his,
Oh, yeah.
we did get a letter from our village manager regarding this, and it's his recommendation that, this board approve it. So he is suggesting a motion listed in his letter.
All right, well, I make a motion to accept the 2022-2023 audit as presented.
Support?
Okay, any other further questions of the village staff, being that Tyler is not here to answer them?
Too late.
Okay, none of those, let's, roll call this thing.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Nyla,
Yes.
Yes.
Brooks, Ismail.
Yes. Okay, we finished the audit. That was kind of a sticking point. Our insurance policy came due. I don't know if, I'm sure as a government, just costs are going up everywhere because all of my insurances have increased dramatically in the past year or so. I'm saying that from a personal standpoint and a couple of businesses I have. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see this. When I talked to Ryan about it, he said a lot of it has to do with the depreciation or the age of some of our DPW equipment, which then makes it more costly to replace, which then makes the premium increase. So it's kind of that cat chasing its tail thing that we got to do it. We also have an issue with a company that we used to use who is not in this this business anymore. Maybe it's because they just couldn't, maybe they just had to pay out too many claims, or they just decided to take their insurance in another direction. So we have found this other company, and again, they look like they're gonna give us some better coverage, but of course at a little bit of a higher premium. So Ryan, if you can take that a step further, if you need to. If not, you have a letter in here indicating that, that we move forward with approving this insurance company and the bid and the cost.
I don't have much to add. I intentionally didn't put it in the package just so we don't have our whole policy as public record. That's the only reason. It's available to anybody on council or the public if they were to ask, but.
Can you share what the cost was last year so we can?
It was,
know what we're doing?
Call it a
7?
10% increase probably, thereabouts.
And about 1,000 of that is the vehicle replacement
Gotcha.
Yeah.
cost. Yep.
Then I make a motion that we renew our insurance coverage with My Member Insurance Agency at a cost of $10,392.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any questions? And my only question is, my member, Ryan, do you know where they're located or where they're out of?
Frankenmuth, more or less,
Oh,
the
okay.
Saginaw area.
Not
but
to be
they-
confused with Frankenmuth Insurance, right?
Correct.
Okay. Or fried chicken.
Oh, jeez.
Any other questions about the insurance? Roll call vote, please.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo. Yes. Nyla,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Okay, we have a new insurance company and a new rate. Hopefully, we don't ever have to call them. That takes care of new business onto village, no. Yeah,
Meeting location.
meeting location, I just want to address this for a minute first if I can. Some of us has mentioned it, I personally think it's a good idea. Historic building here, but sometimes just not the best suited for public meetings. We met in the township for the whole time that I was the village president earlier in this century. And it turned out to be a very nice place to hold meetings. Ryan checked with the township and they seem to be in agreement. There's some couple of just scheduled things they might have to work on. And in general though, I think I'm pretty insistent on the idea that because it is a change in location, that it correspond with the next calendar year and the meetings coming up in 2024, rather than try to do some transition at the end of this year and people just maybe aren't quite familiar or the word doesn't get out, or for some reason we can say if we do something soon, we have a good 90 days to let people know and plan for it and then take the lead. But that's just the opinion I threw in. This is on the village manager report, which means it's not on our budget to vote on. We're just Ryan's gonna
discussion
discuss
only.
it, and he might take this 2 steps further than I just did.
That was the bulk of it. Like you said, the history of the Old Town Hall definitely carries some weight. The logistical challenges, like these tables, I know on the recordings, when you listen back, you hear lots of this, things like that, and I'm always guilty with my water bottle and pen. So there are some challenges, they could be overcome. We've talked about different lighting in here, we've talked about different tables, we've talked about some of that. We didn't budget for much of that this year. So if we were going to, we'd have to talk about that further. There are some costs to moving to the township. We will always be second fiddle at the township. The township will always come first. If they have meetings or other things, that takes priority over us, whereas here, we're top dog and can kick out any scout troop that wants to meet at the same time as us.
I think as Ken said though before, when we were over there, that was the case then and we were kicked out.
I don't think there's ever a
times.
conflict, and
Right.
if there is a conflict, it's because we don't plan well. And if we do plan well and we get our calendars together, and everybody gets on the same page, and that's just a matter of you and.
And we'd always have a
possibly,
plan B
yeah.
because we have this place.
We
Exactly.
do.
Unless it's been rented.
One of the wrinkles that I didn't include in there is the elections and early voting, that it's open for 9 days in that space prior to election. So we'll have to consider that when we're setting up our schedule for at least twice a year.
True, but I'd say we
things like
might
that.
be fortunate in the fact that elections are generally held first or second Tuesday, and our meetings are later in the month, so we shouldn't.
But 9 days before that, we might
Right,
run into
but we
a
could
problem.
always, again,
Oh,
just meet in
yes.
here.
Right,
You
we
know,
can.
which is always,
Right.
which is great.
We always have some place to fall
Yeah,
back on
we-
if you
we
need
have a
to.
place,
But,
yeah.
you know, these are great for bingo, I suppose, but I can't think of much else.
Plus the heating and air over there works.
Well, just the audio, this echoing, and I'll tell you, and the reason I contacted Ryan and Ken again afterwards was because at our joint meeting, when you misunderstood me and Linda misunderstood me when I was saying with the MML, you guys couldn't hear what you thought it was my comment or something. You said, "Oh, I thought that was your." I said, "No," I said MML, and you said, "We can't hear you." And I thought, you know what? That then is a big concern, because if we can't even hear each other in this room, the audio is horrible, and that is just treading on disinformation.
Right.
So,
These
yeah.
audio people will love us if we do that, because they have
Greg
a
Norman
permanent
would love
setup
for
over
us to
there
move.
that they don't have to keep, doing
Back
this
and
back
forth.
and
Looking all
forth
this
and
stuff
having,
up.
Yeah.
you get, boy,
Especially-
there's just,
Especially in the
So
winter.
good on film, you
There's
know.
an octopus under there, Ken.
there is, I gotta tell you.
Just watch out.
It's a hazard for sure. But anyway, that was Ryan's report, and I support it, so if we want him to, maybe narrow down something that we can vote on at our next meeting.
I'm in favor.
So would the next meeting, would it be to put together a 2024 calendar?
No,
with dates
no,
over
no,
there,
it's just
or-
gonna be that, I think we should have it on record that we are committed to moving our 2024 meetings there. That way it could at least show up in the paper that week.
Starting in
And
January.
it kind of just is a way to show that we're not being forced over there. It's our decision, and we're choosing to do so, and we're gonna make a motion and go in that direction.
Yeah, I think that'd be okay for regular meetings. When we have the joint meetings, when we have.
No, we can use
TJ
here.
and those,
Yeah.
we probably still would be better off in here.
Oh, for
because of
sure.
the size.
That's just common sense.
And I think we let the DDA and Planning Commission continue to decide where they meet. If they
Yes.
wanna pursue it over there too, we'd
Well, yeah, I mean, we can
Right.
make it
Separately.
work. We can-
Yeah, and didn't they used to meet just in the conference room?
Conference room.
Yeah.
I think planning commission, it's much more comfortable in the conference room.
Uh-huh.
Unless you have a lot of people you're expecting to have show up, which typically doesn't happen too much in planning.
No, but then again,
you never
And if
know.
it does,
Here for
then
that.
we can move it someplace.
Evaluate each meeting if we need to.
I think we had something over at the auditorium one time, several years back when we were working on the master plan, so there's other spaces.
We've done that, we've done the
One of
library.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
The library is very good. Yep.
Okay, that building's set up for meetings, so why not use it
Yep.
to our advantage? We pay just as much tax,
Right
if not
on.
more than they do.
At the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Yes, so
Agreed.
our village taxes support them as well, so we can claim, a little bit of ownership. And Bob plows their parking lot for them, so I think we got some leverage.
doesn't currently.
No, not currently.
Another topic entirely.
Another one entirely.
All right.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, what else you got,
Let's go to
Ryan?
the village manager report and hear what comes up with other updates.
So did we vote on moving?
No, we will next month.
We're just talking about, do we
Yeah,
want him
this
to
is just
proceed?
discussion.
See, it's listed under manager report, so he's here to update us, and I've kind of taken that privilege away from him for a moment. I don't think he minds though.
Not on that one. Other updates, so working on the Oakwood sidewalk project, Eagle approved our, wetland yada yada, construction in the spring. Sidewalk leveling took place, we've got a few other spots where they need more than leveling, so those are underway, they are on the slate for this fall. Looking at you, Linda.
Is that company gonna be back here again, or are we done with them?
The levelers, we're
Yeah.
done with what they bid. Or
At
what
that
they-
time, but
Yeah,
we might use their services again?
we may, yeah, we've used them in the past too, and they do a good
Okay.
job leveling.
Yeah, okay.
I saw them working out here in front, they were doing a nice job.
Yeah, good stuff. Wayfinding work continues. I spoke with MDOT today. We're working through the approval process with both MDOT for signs on M15 and signs on Grange Hall and Oakwood that are under the domain of the Road Commission for Oakland County, both of which have very different, vastly different approval processes.
Who is we? When you said we met with them today?
I spoke to MDOT,
You spoke to
and then
MDOT.
MDOT, where the
And then,
weeds.
I guess, then can you,
Signorama, our sign fabricator, is working on them as well.
okay, so the holdup then is not road commission right now, it's with MDOT.
So there's two different signs where we've put in for approval, and one is MDOT, one is Road Commission.
Okay.
They're both in the approval queue, both in process.
Meaning, where are they in
One's
process?
with MDOT, one's with Road Commission.
But where in the process? Because they've been in that
Submitted.
process for 8 months, so where in the process
No,
are
they
they?
weren't. The Road Commission or MDOT process, neither one was part of our wayfinding plan whatsoever.
But you have been talking with them, because I've been asking where is it at, and you've been telling me you've been talking with them for several months, so
Have.
where in the process then?
Both are in the queue for approval. But I don't know what
At
that
their
timeline
agency-
is.
is that what you're saying, at
Two
their
separate
agencies,
agencies,
yeah.
yes.
So that could be 6 months?
I was told weeks, and that was at least a month ago.
Okay.
So, but both are vastly different. Planning Commission has a few things coming on their docket. We had talked about having a zoning board of appeals meeting with you guys, but I'm glad nobody showed up at 6 ready for that. The Planning Commission is gonna start on 2 variance requests at their next meeting. Zoning ordinance work continues. Thank you for all your help with September Fest with the 175th. The group is meeting again tomorrow, and we'll talk about if the 175th things are done. We may wanna do something with Christmas in the Village, we're not sure yet, but we'll know more soon. But the big stuff, the big lift is over. Speaking of Christmas, I talked to John at the Township Parks and Rec about Christmas. We're gonna talk with Matt later this week about Christmas in the Village, cause September Fest is over, so why not be getting ready for Christmas? Work continues on the website. They started migrating content this week. It takes a couple of weeks. You'll have an update in our next one. We should have something to show for it in late October. Working on our concession stand grant as well. Yeah,
Nothing moves quickly, does it?
it sure doesn't.
So what is going on with the concession stand?
Volleying documents back and forth with the DNR grant coordinator.
Is there any issue?
We need to get the documents to to be approved to be put out to bid. Once they're approved, there are several scope items that we have to clarify and justify, and everything's based on 2019 when the world was entirely different. So as we work through each thing, there's a laundry list of small things to work through. Once we are told we can go out to bid, you will have that quickly for this is going out to bid, here's an RFP. We're working on that. That is the next big step. Lots of back and forth.
So for the new sidewalk, did you get all the landowners to approve?
Ongoing conversations.
Okay.
We're working with our assessor, and our attorney weighed in on it as well. There's a couple approaches to easements on private property. And so we've decided on a plan, and we're working with the assessor to finalize a couple other steps, and then we'll have those conversations. Should be able to provide some kind of update in October, because we have a end of October deadline with MDOT, so
Then I have
work on.
one question. So for the intergovernmental agreements, how's that coming along with the new rec director and what's his name, John?
John Hug, yep.
Thank you.
We
Hug. I gotta
we
remember
spoke about it briefly this morning, but he is still, I'm not sure that he knows where the bathroom is yet. So I'm trying not to bombard him with it just yet. He will likely join us for one of our upcoming meetings, with our new permit process. I wanna make sure he knows about that before, as we work through Christmas in the Village and what that looks like and all that fun stuff. So that's what we'll talk about with Matt from the DDA and Parks and Rec. It's a joint effort of everyone. That's all I got for you. That's a lot.
I got a question. You mentioned RCOC and at our 175th, that September Fest, I was a little disappointed we don't have our center lines painted yet. Any possible update on when we might get our center lines painted on the road?
Every time I think, oh yeah, we gotta make that a priority, I see a report that says how it's actually safer without them because people aren't sure. So people drive more cautiously. And I think using caution on the hill is not a bad thing. I will keep it in our queue. We'll get there. It's not, mission critical,
It's,
so it
it's
hasn't
funny
been a top
because
of
when they
mind, gotta do it.
when they repaved Cedar, they added lines, which it didn't have before, and I thought, well, that didn't need lines, but Mill Street, which is a main road, which, with a lot of truck traffic and stuff like that, now we don't have lines, except, well, only in that short section, but there's lines the rest of it, so. I agree in general, if you don't have lines, people will drive more cautiously, but I think right in the downtown area, I think we still need those lines.
Which one that's too big for Bob's one-man sprayer? So,
He did a nice job on the parking spaces, though.
it's great for striping a parking lot.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
No, I have something to speak.
Try.
In response to the NODA, SMART, and WODA issue, if anybody has any questions, they should call Faye at 248-627-6447, between 8 and 4, and she will give you further information about what is going on with that. So,
There's a wealth of information
yes,
on it.
she
She
would
attended,
probably be the best one to go to at this time.
I'd say without a doubt, township-wide and beyond. She attended the first Oakland County Summit to talk
Yeah,
about those
she's-
things. There's another one on Friday that I plan to attend.
She's been at meetings 3 last week and I believe 2 this week. So, and it's all about those buses.
Well,
I encourage you to call.
Linda, you were saying something?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? No, all those in favor?
Please leave the table and chairs as they are.